Hey everybody, what's up? Unrested here. If it's your first time on the channel, I am Unrested, who usually does JFAQ, Japan's frequently asked questions, and helps you out with doing everything from studying your Japanese, moving to Japan, getting a job in Japan, moving your whole life over there, checking out what kind of visas you can get, and just life advice for how to live, adapt, and get into Japanese culture. If you have any questions about anything you see here today, leave it in the comments below. It may be a future video. Now, today I'm doing something a little bit different. This is not my normal type of video. I'm doing a reaction video. And the reason I am doing this is recently there's been a little bit of drama. Um, there is this guy, Matt versus Japan. Overall, I think he's a good dude. All right, I'm just going to start out and say that. I think there's a good heart inside of Matt here, but he's kind of done a runner on a bit of the people that he promised some Japanese lessons. And he's explaining why, what happened, and sadly, it involves Ken Cannon, who we'll talk about later in this. If you've been with my channel for a while, you've heard me talk about Ken Cannon in the past. I don't want to get into that right now. That's a whole nother tangent. I want to let Matt explain himself. I am doing this because Matt, who I have left a comment on his channel first, I didn't just, um, pretty much hit him with some guerrilla warfare here and pop out and make this video. I left a message on his channel first and said, I'd love to have you on my channel for you to be able to talk about this. Matt was very cordial. He said he even watched my channel 15 years ago, which thank you. It's flattering. I'm not going to lie and be like, oh, yes, of course you did. I'm the great unrested. No, I don't think anybody watches me anymore, quite frankly. Um, but I want to give Matt a chance first to have his video on here. Of course, go to his channel, watch it there as well. Give him the subscription, give him the view. But I want to react to it because this is something I've seen happen in the past before with a guy named Ken Cannon, and he happens to be working with Ken Cannon. And we'll talk about him, we'll talk about Matt, and we'll see who's really to blame in the middle of all this. So let me get my big dumb face off the screen. Let's let Matt take over, and let's let him talk.
Am I, Matt vs. Japan, a scammer? Well, you know what? Maybe I am. In these past couple years, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding me. There's a lot of people saying a lot of things. And you know what? A lot of it is actually true. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I guess I thought that if I just laid low long enough, eventually the mistakes would blow over. But I finally realized that some of these mistakes are so indefensible that they're never going to blow over, and I need to own up to them. So in this video, I'm going to lay out everything that's happened to me in the last couple years surrounding all these controversies, and I'm going to let you decide whether you think I'm a scammer or not. So the first
Well, first, Matt, I think the thing I would do, I don't know if I would go right with scammer. I would just say, let you make a judgment on me. I do want to give you props for coming right out and saying, I have failed my viewers in the past. I've failed you this time with this situation. It's good to just come out and say that. Whoa, 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 let me explain. I've got reasons behind this. Once you share, you won't blame me anymore. That's good that you just came right out and said, like, look, I screwed up. That's good. That's a good start. Let's find out what you screwed up with and why.
First thing I should probably talk about is my partnership that I had with Yoga, also known as Lucas. So Yoga and I started working together in 2017, 2018, worked together for a couple years. It was going pretty well, but ultimately we had some disagreements we couldn't work out, and we decided to go our separate ways. But when we were deciding how to split up the assets that we had built up, we couldn't come to an agreement, and it ultimately led to a very nasty public split up.
Ooh.
Now, I should have handled that situation a lot better, and a lot of what happened was directly my fault. But luckily, Lucas and I have since then actually made up and buried the hatchet, and we're now on very good terms, and I'm very happy to be able to call him my friend.
I don't know about this controversy, but well, it is good that you kind of called out your fact that you had like a public blowout. You don't want to do that. I've done the same stupid thing. Me and Quick Rhino in the past, where we had all kinds of communication problems. We didn't know who was telling what on what side of the argument. I've got a whole video on it. You can watch it. I'm not going to get back into that right now, but it wasn't smart for me to bring that publicly to my whole YouTube audience. If I really had a problem with Quick Rhino, I should have privately brought it up with him first, and I didn't. So it's good that you've learned that. That's kind of a brand new to YouTube sort of youngster type thing to do. I was in my 20s too. I imagine Matt here's in his 20s. I did the same thing when I was in my 20s. I made a mistake like that. Let's let you continue, Matt.
But anyway, in the wake of Lucas and I splitting up in late 2020, a couple things happened. First of all, I met someone named Ethan, and we started Refold together. And also, just a little bit after that, I met someone named Ken Cannon. Now, Ken is someone who was like me in a lot of ways. He's an American who learned Japanese to an extremely high level while living in America, but what was a little different than me was he had a background in online marketing and online business, and he had a business online where he helped people learn Japanese, and he made a lot of money. So when I started to become friends with Ken.
Okay, I got to talk about Ken Cannon real quick. Ken Cannon's been around in the whole YouTube scene, the J-vlogger scene for a long time now. Um, I've talked to the guy um, a couple times. For the most part, very cordial, apologetic for a lot of the things he's had fail online. The fact is, though, that Ken has had two separate programs that he started and did not finish for the people who bought it. It was a series of lessons in which he would make a video teaching people Japanese. They'd go onto a website, and that's where the videos would be. And he ran tons of ads on YouTube to get a bunch of people to enlist in it, and then later never followed through with the whole series that he promised people who paid for it. Um, in fact, Give Me a Break, Give Me a Flake Man also advertised him on his channel because Ken was offering him a kickback from this. And even Give Me a Break Man, Give Me a Flake Man, Victor was screwed over by Ken for a while. They eventually settled their differences and Ken paid him back. But pretty much Victor ran those and it looked bad on him because the full course wasn't delivered by Ken. And also, Ken, who was supposed to give him, I don't know what their agreement was as far as a percentage of kickbacks on what you buy, um, didn't pay him until like years and years later. Um, and Victor was kind of like, dude, WTF, like what's going on with this? Like, um, Ken's excuse, and I look, this has happened. This was like over a decade ago. So I'm doing the best I can. I'm not going to go through a bunch of internet research to find this out, but I somewhat remember his excuse was that he bought YouTube ads, which I did see. And if you were with me a long time ago, you saw the ads too. I'm Ken Cannon. I'll teach you how to learn Japanese through anime. That's how I learned it, and I can speak fluent. And apparently, Ken is really good at speaking Japanese. That's not a lie. Um, but he apparently bought way more ads than he thought. Apparently, he said, like, I just, put a credit card in there and thought, like, I would only get ads from this time to this time, and they would only show up on these videos to these videos. But what I found out later was that I was paying for, like, an insane amount of ads, and the way that they described the sales to me didn't completely compute in my head as far as purchasing was concerned. And I had spent like something like $30,000 on ads. And I was like bankrupt because of this. I wasn't even making my money back. I actually like, lost tons of money because I spent way more on ads than actual people who took the courses. So I ended up having to work like a full-time job to pay everything back and pay off my credit cards. And I don't know. I don't know if that's real. All right. And I may have the amounts wrong or anything like that, but that was his excuse, was that he had bought way too many ads. I've never bought ads on YouTube, so I don't know what the process is like. I imagine they probably have a pretty clear process. This isn't some like, you know, leave in the middle of the night type company. This is Google. I imagine it's pretty clear. Although if it is like AdSense, I will say AdSense is pretty damn confusing with how it works. Um, and it was the start of YouTube at this time. And this is the first time he ran his Japanese teaching course and didn't follow through with it. All right. So fool me once, shame on me, right? I mean, shame on you, right? Sorry, I'm going with the whole George Bush uh, code of how to say this. Um, you know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? He did it again. He started a whole new course again. Um, and these are the videos. I don't know if I could even find them online, but he disappeared once again. He stopped delivering the courses. He didn't finish them. He didn't deliver the videos involved. He even wrote me an email, and I could probably go back through my Facebook and find this. He wrote me an email on Facebook because I called him out on this on my channel. I said, do not subscribe to these. I've had multiple people on my channel reach out to me and be like, Do you know anything about Ken Cannon? I've never gotten the rest of my courses. I paid like $1,000 for my courses. I don't know if that's the exact price. I'm just going with a number off the top of my head. Please, this is over a decade old. I don't have prices memorized or videos located. Some of these videos are completely gone. This definitely happened though. You can ask many people within my viewership who are a lot of the same people for the past 15 years. Okay. Um, and they got screwed over and they said, can you help me find out what's going on with this? And if you can't, can you at least warn people that they shouldn't subscribe to these lessons and pay for them? So I did. I mean, I had so many messages coming in. This is back when YouTube had an email system. You may not know that YouTube used to have its own email. We used to have Google Plus profiles. All that's gone now, so I don't have records to get this all back. Um, so I did. I made a video, and actually, Ken reached out to me on Facebook, and I may be able to find this message. If I can, I'll follow up later with it. But he was like, you know what? You're right. It was stupid. I shouldn't have done this. You're right to call me out and stuff like that. So I thought, like, okay, he's being a bit of a big man here by coming forward and being like, I screwed up. You're right to make the video. He didn't come back at me like, yo, what the F, man? Stabbing me in the back, bro. I thought we were chill in the J-Vlogger community. Like, he was mature about it. He came out and did a video, and he also did a couple collabs with like podcasts and stuff like that. And his story about why he didn't finish the courses just look, I've been a teacher for 17 years now between America and Japan. And when a kid doesn't turn something in, they sometimes come up with these silly stories where they're like, I was walking down the hall and I dropped it. And you know how there's like a grate system in the hall? Well, it actually went down the grates and I'm unable to get it. And I've asked maintenance to take the grate out of the hallway. And then I'll be able to get you my homework, Mr. Ackerman. And it's like, yeah, you didn't do it. So just like get it done and turn it into me later. Okay, thank you. Like it sounded like a story one of my students would tell me. There was some kind of story he said where he had the files on a computer and they were in his car and he was going to go get the rest of the videos out of his car, but on the way to his car during that time he was very depressed and not paying attention to what he was doing, and he dropped his car keys down the elevator. Like, you know how the when you get out of an elevator there's a little space between the elevator and the elevator shaft. He dropped it down there and couldn't get his keys back and was locked out of his car, had to wait for the car company to give him a new set of keys. You're just like, what? I mean, what do you talk like? Maybe this really all did happen, but fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I didn't believe it. Okay, like I had the same people coming back to me again, being like, I didn't get to finish my courses. Please tell people about this. And he's still going now. And look, I'm not blaming Matt. Okay, I'm not saying Matt, dude, what the fuck, man. I'm saying Matt, though, maybe you should have done a little more research on Ken Cannon's past. He's got kind of a shady past. So I think your first mistake, Matt, was not researching Ken. I don't know if he's behind you not finishing these lessons. I know you're taking some responsibility as far as saying like you came to Japan and kind of let it all slide. But I want to get deeper into this and see how deep the connection goes. I've only seen bits and pieces of this video, and I want to give it the full thing. Sorry I interrupted. Let's get back to it.
Cannon. He taught me a lot about this kind of business and online marketing, and I allowed myself to be very influenced by this. And it actually led me to decide that I wanted to stop doing Refold and instead work with Ken Cannon. So I actually talked to Ethan very early on in the creation of Refold, and we had decided that I was going to leave Refold, and we together created a plan, a kind of long-term exit plan that would allow me to leave Refold in such a way that Ethan would be able to continue Refold without me. And this actually went really well. I ended up sticking around with Refold for about 2 years total. And in the middle of 2022, I officially left Refold. And to this day, 3 years later, Ethan and the Refold team run Refold, and it seems like it's going really successfully. So luckily, that went well. But anyway, around this time when I had just started to meet Ken, started to talk to Ken, I was still in Refold. An incident that happened that I have to mention is that at one point I was having what I thought was a private conversation with another member of the Japanese learning community, and it turned out that this entire conversation was actually getting recorded. So this was a 2-hour conversation that we had where I was speaking very candidly about my perspective being a creator in this Japanese learning space. And this conversation, yeah, was recorded without me knowing. and it was passed around, and it got into the hands of someone who really hates me. And
All right, that sucks. All right. Whether Matt was being shady or not, with his courses, someone recording him behind his back and then handing the recording off, that sucks. Matt, let me know who this is. You can let me know in private messages so I know never to trust this person. That's shady. That's shady. Look, I understand people are angry at Matt probably for not getting their courses, but also the person recording him in private and not telling him, you're also shady. That's weird, man.
And this person took clips from this 2 hour long conversation and edited it into a video that made it sound like I was saying really terrible things. Like I thought my whole audience was a bunch of whales that I could just milk for money by selling like crap products, and that I thought I was some kind of Japanese god, and I purposely try to lead my audience into thinking that I'm a Japanese god or something like that. Now, if you actually
All right, hold on. Matt, if you do come on and you do actually have this conversation, because Matt said he would come on and talk to me about this, I'm not saying like he's gonna like ghost me and not actually do this. We might just never have time to link up times. I mean, we've got like a 13 to 14 hour difference. So if it never happens, it never happens. But definitely let's talk about this video. Let's get this video on there and find um, what points. I mean, how did you actually say the word that my subscribers are whales who will pay for this? I haven't found this video. I wanted to let you explain in your own words, but I'd maybe like to talk about that video too. That sounds, I mean, I get it. You were taken out of context. That's messed up. All right. We've all had that done to us on YouTube. But I'm also I want to kind of hear this video and see if there's like a way where it's like, oh, yeah, I definitely could see how that was completely pulled out of context.
listen to the whole conversation in context, what I said was actually pretty mild. And so I've uploaded an entire 2 hour uncut recording of this conversation, the exact recording that went around. I have uploaded that on my second channel so that you can.
Wait, wait, Matt. I thought this was like a private conversation, as in like you were like in a restaurant or something and you were being recorded. You were on a live stream or like talking to someone on a video call and you didn't know you were being recorded. Okay. I guess I'm just gonna say this for my viewers and for you, Matt. Anytime you're talking to someone like this on any kind of call or talk or just expect that you're getting recorded. Never say, type, or do anything that connects to online with anything you wouldn't want actually recorded. I'm sure you've learned this now, Matt, but any email, any message, any DM, any PM, any SMS, just imagine it's all being recorded. Never ever suspect you're not being recorded. I thought you were gonna tell us it was like in a shady restaurant at night, and there was like the old school reporter's cassette tape or something. Like, but if you were in a call with this guy, yeah, I mean, I guess so.
Go and watch it and decide for yourself what you think.
All
I'll
right, we'll
put
do that.
timestamps to the sections that people usually like to quote as when I'm talking about whales or things like that. But anyway, going back to kind of the Ken Cannon thing, what I just said will come in a little bit. But yeah, Ken and I got talking. We decided we were going to make a pitch accent course together. Making a pitch accent course was something that I had been wanting to do for many years because pitch accent's probably one of the topics that I'm most passionate about when it comes to how to learn Japanese, because it's something that I found out really late in the game, and I feel like if I would have learned about it sooner, it would have saved me a lot of time and effort. And also, when I went to go and learn pitch accent, I had a really hard time doing so. There were not a lot of resources out there, and there were a lot of things I had to go and find out on my own through a lot of hard work. And I felt like I kind of come up with my own unique framework for teaching pitch accent, and I could do it in a unique way that would provide a lot of value to people. Now, I want to say up front that, of course, there's also Dogen's pitch accent course. Dogen's pitch accent course is really good. I would recommend anyone interested in pitch accent to go and check it out. But the course that I had in mind was a little bit more comprehensive, where it doesn't just give you the knowledge, but also helps you kind of train your ears and train your mouth and things like this, and also goes into even more nitty gritty detail that Dogen doesn't go into yet. So it wasn't meant to kind of replace Dogen's course.
If you guys don't know Dogen, Dogen's like, I mean, he's so good at Japanese that I imagine when he calls people on the phone, they imagine he is a Japanese person. Um, his Japanese is incredible. I don't know his full history. I watched only a little bit of Dogen. I like when Dogen does like an opinion piece on stuff, but I don't know Dogen's full origin story. So Forgive me if there's a reason, like maybe he was born in Japan, I don't know. Like his Japanese is so good, it's like he's born in Japan. I mean, he speaks like my son speaks, who's half Japanese or halfanese. That's a new thing I call my son.
Course, it was kind of just supposed to be a different kind of fill a different kind of place in the market.
Okay.
But anyway, Ken and I went on to make this course. It was called Project Uproot, and it had a couple different components to it. One of the components was just video lessons where I'm sitting in front of a digital chalkboard and I'm teaching the concepts of pitch accent according to the framework that I came up with. All in all, there ended up being 48 of these video lessons that added all up to over 15 hours of content. There was also chorusing audios, where these are basically audios that used example sentences that we created based on the video lessons that were read by a native speaker, and they were edited in such a way that you could use them for chorusing very easily, and this was to train your mouth and train your ears. We also had Anki decks that we gave out to students that taught you the pitch of the most common words in Japanese, and then also
Okay, so if people are anywhere confused, okay, so Anki decks are like your pretty much your kanji cards, your kanji flashcards. You're flipping them back and forth to memorize a bunch of kanji for JLPT. Usually, most of us are going to start out at 5. Maybe some of you can go way higher than that. My kanji reading is straight garbage. I can speak a lot more than I can read. And what she's talking about with pitch and stuff like that, it's pretty much like your the pretty much the iambic pentameter of your voice, as well as like where you start and where you end with a pitch when you're saying stuff. It does really change inflection and stuff like that, and you sound way more natural. One of my biggest problems when I started speaking Japanese, and this was my wife just being very blunt and telling me how bad my Japanese was, is that I sounded like a robot. He's pretty much stopping you from sounding like a robot. Okay, let's continue.
so we had live sessions where Ken and I would be joined by a native speaker, and we would have the students actually do exercises where they would test their pitch perception and actually speak Japanese, and then we would have the native speaker correct their Japanese. And so we designed this course called Project Uproot. We spent almost a year kind of planning it and things like that. And then in January 2022, we finally officially launched it. Now, the deal that Ken and I had was that I was going to mostly make the content of the course, and Ken was mostly going to be in charge of the marketing. And at this point in time, it was already set in stone that I was going to be leaving Refold in a couple months. And so this course basically had to be the one thing that was going to be financially supporting me for the next period of time. I was really putting all of my time and effort into this course, and I really wanted to make a lot of money off it. So I told Ken to design the marketing in such a way that we would make as much money as possible. And this really led.
Good idea. Never do with the least amount. Do the most you can make. Good. See, you got a marketing mind there, Matt. Set it up so I make the most. Don't go for like medium. Don't go for lowest. Most first. Good business plan.
To probably the biggest mistake that I've made in my life thus far,
Ooh,
which was
why?
marketing this course in a very terrible, off-putting, obnoxious way. So basically, we designed this whole marketing strategy that was designed around building false scarcity, building fear in people, making it, going
Uh,
against all the principles that I've always had on my own YouTube channel, where we're making it sound like this one course that we're selling is the only way to get a perfect accent. We have some magic secret that other people don't have. You can get a perfect accent in only a couple months using this course. If you don't get it, then you're going to sound bad in Japanese, and Japanese people aren't going
I
to.
hear you saying that you regret that you did it this way now, Matt, but come on. You knew that when you were doing it at the beginning. Um, I get that hindsight's 2020, but sometimes present is 2022, Matt. Come on now. At the same time, I mean, we are YouTubers here. We do write clickbait and stuff. Part of our habit is to try to make it sound as clickbaity as possible, as you need to watch and see this as much as possible. So probably part of that came out. Even me with my own YouTube videos, I try to make it with titles that are super clickbaity and make you want to view it. And of course you get viewers who are like, this clickbait just tries to get people to view the video, and you're like, yeah, that's what we want. We want people to view our videos. I don't, not a podcast. So yeah, usually we want viewers. Sorry. Although you're not losing money when you watch my video. Okay, let's continue. Let's let Matt
Going to like
explain.
you, and You're only going to have one chance to buy this course. And basically, we tried to press all of people's fears buttons and FOMO buttons and basically just get people, as many people as possible, to want to buy this course. And this led to a huge backlash in the community, understandably so. First of all, just because inherently the marketing was very terrible and off putting. But second of all, it was completely against my own personal brand. I was always about talking about how you don't need to spend a lot of money to learn a language. I actually had criticized Katsumoto for doing a very similar thing, so I basically was coming across as completely hypocritical. And also, that video that the hater made, where they're taking clips of me out of context to make it sound like I want to just, rip off a bunch of whales. That video started to get a lot more attention once we released Project Uproot, and everyone started pointing to that video and going, "Oh, look, this is what Matt was talking about. This is the giant scam he's making to try to squeeze money out of the whales." And so all these things combined to lead to this giant backlash where everyone basically started calling it a scam before they even really knew what it was. And this whole thing about me being a scammer, my understanding is that it stems from this right here. So what Ken and I thought at the time was, we're about to run this course. The course was planned to be a 2-month long course. So rather than just coming out and trying to explain to everybody, hey, it's not a scam, it's not a scam, when we didn't really even have anything to show for it yet, we'd actually run the whole course. It would be a success. The customers would like it. We'd get some testimonials, and then we'd come back to YouTube a couple months later, showing the testimonials, showing the course, showing the results, and then explain that it wasn't really a scam. Now I have to talk about, of course, the price of the course. The price of the course, Project Uproot, was $500 with an optional $250 upsell. So basically, the base course was $500. You'd get all the components of the course I mentioned before. And if you paid an additional $250 for a total of $750, then you would get additional time with me, Ken, and
And that's 48 lessons for $500? If I'm getting this correct? And you finished all 48 lessons. See, I was under, I watched parts of this and I thought there was a point where you said you didn't finish the course. That's what I thought the scam was, but I want to let you finish your whole thing. That's why I'm letting the whole video play before I judge any of this. I will say though, mm, having to wait for the course to come out to convince people it's not a scam, um, you're already starting in deep water there, but I don't. Let's let you finish.
the native speakers on live sessions where you get more attention. Now, as far as the price goes, if we had fully delivered on the course that we were promising to create, I think $500 actually would have been a pretty fair price. Because when you
Uh-oh.
think about all the time that it took me to create these hours of video lessons, and all the time we spent creating other parts of the course, and just all the time I had to spend studying pitch myself to get to this point, I think that $500 to really learn all of pitch accent, not just the knowledge, but getting to practice it and really having all the tools you need to learn to speak Japanese with perfect pitch accent, if you put in the work, I think is actually pretty fair. And if when I first got interested in pitch accent, there was a course like this that taught all of this and had this all together in one easy to understand place, I would have paid $500 for it happily. I see a lot of people online kind of saying things like, with that same amount of money, you could hire like hours and hours of italki lessons, right? Well,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, what a course is worth is completely it changes quite a bit. I mean, it's kind of half of it's subjective because it's like what is it worth to you? Half of it is objective in the sense of like how many hours of teaching are you getting? I mean, to give you an idea, I take a one-on-one Japanese lesson from a native speaker for $9 a lesson 4 times a month, which is $36 a month, and I feel like I'm making like quite a steal there with that. It's great, and my Japanese is improving because of that. But I'm only looking to improve my speaking. Um, $500 and you don't actually like have a one-on-one tutor. I don't know. Well, first of all, I want to see how many courses because he said like I thought it would be a lot of courses. So I'm guessing he didn't finish the full course. Let's find out.
the thing is, italki teachers don't know how to teach pitch accent, right? They don't know the pitch accent rules. They've never had to learn pitch accent themselves because they just picked it up naturally as a child. And so they really aren't going to be able to help you if your true goal is to master pitch accent. But this course is. So that's
Okay. I see what he's saying here. So yeah, he's kind of right in the sense that like so pre-ply is what I use. Italki, I'm guessing, is something like the same thing, where you can find a native speaker online who will teach you for very cheap. Um, if you have a native speaker teach you and they're not like actually someone who's gone to college for teaching Japanese to non-native speakers, they totally have no clue that they need to teach you pitch. That is very true. Like my teacher now would probably not know to teach me that. I'm I learned most of my pitch and everything from that from just literally living in Japan for 15 plus years. So he is right about that. There's certain like grammatical things, like pitch things, pronunciation things that like a native speaker who's not versed in the educational degree to teach that language they speak will not know to teach you those things because they want you just to be able to like have a conversation back and forth. Ekaiwa would be the English version of that. In Japanese, shabareru hanashi, have a conversation back and forth like that. Um, you are doing that and you're saying that and they understand you and they expect that you're going to sound different with an accent with pitch differences and stuff like that. They're never going to stop you and be like, hey, oh, look, you're speaking the correct words, but your pitch is totally off. They're happy just to make you see progress in interacting and stuff like that. Whereas a teacher like, I guess, Matt here, who does have a bit of a background in teaching a language, we've got to give him credit where it's due, would stop you and would also notify you of that because he's observing the language from an outsider perspective. Um, and maybe, I don't know, maybe he actually even has like an educational background in language. I don't know. But if he has like an educational background or educational degree, he would know to stop you and like slow down like your iambic pentameter, any kind of staccato you would have within a verse, letter, stop, phrase, full stop, etc. Tongue placement in your mouth, which it sounds goofy, but it really changes your pronunciation quite a bit when it comes to Japanese. So I'm guessing that's what he's speaking about. Let's continue.
It's not really a valid comparison. Um, so yeah, there's that. I think $500. Honestly, of course it is pricey, but for what we were promising, I think it's kind of fair. The extra $250 upgrade, honestly, I don't think we had any way to justify that value. I think that was too much, and definitely that was an additional mistake. $750, I think,
But
was
what did the 250 offer? Like, was it a one-on-one with a tutor for like a certain amount of lessons?
we didn't have enough value to justify that. But anyway, the way that the course played out was we had part of the course content done before we launched the course, but for the majority of the course content, we were planning
Ah,
on creating it in real time and having the students go through it in real time. And at the time, this seemed like a good idea because we could get feedback from the students in real time. They would watch, we'd make a video, they'd watch it, I could see what they thought was hard and not hard, and then I could kind of
okay, come on, dude. You offer a course of this many courses and you say, I don't have all the courses done because halfway through all those courses, I want to have feedback. This, I don't know if this was really Matt's idea. I have a feeling this was a bit of Ken being like, no, wait, we don't have to do everything all at once. I mean, like we got to get some feedback first. Let's not finish all this stuff because this is what Ken does. This is like Ken Cannon Returns Part 3, Lost in New York, right? Like now he's doing the same thing again where he doesn't have the full course completed and he's offering it, selling it, getting profit from it, but also again, like we've watched him do this how many times?
adjust what I was doing based on that. But in hindsight, this was a huge mistake because it took way, way, way longer than we initially predicted to actually make the course.
Yeah.
Like I said, we thought that Project Uproot was going to be just a 2 month thing, a 60-day course, and it ended up taking over a year to make the basic content for Project Uproot.
Yeah.
Part of this, like I said, was just that it took way longer than we predicted. You know, if you've ever worked on a big project before, you'll probably be able to relate to an extent. But the other thing is that midway through teaching the course, I moved to Japan. You know,
Uh,
I already knew I was going to move to Japan, but originally we thought we'd be done with the course by then. But right when we were still in the middle of the course, I moved to Japan in around the middle of 2023. And once I moved to Japan, I kind of got distracted. You know, I went to school in Japan. I was studying abroad. It was super fun. I had finally been living in Japan for the first time in 10 years. And so I was still working on the course on the side, but the pace at which I made the course really slowed down. And this again was another.
so you turned into Ken Cannon Jr. You didn't finish the course, you got distracted. At least you're just being honest that you said, like, I just got distracted and started doing other stuff and didn't finish the course. You're not telling us about how you dropped your keys in the elevator and couldn't get to your car or you spent too much ad money on Google.
Huge mistake that I fully take responsibility for. we had customers paying a lot of money for this course, and I should have just, even if I moved to Japan, I should have buckled down and made that my number one
Yeah.
priority. And that's not what I did. I let it fall to the back burner a little bit when I enjoyed myself a little bit too much in Japan, and that was a big mistake. And so it ended up taking a whole year to make the basics of Project Uproot, and we didn't even get close to making all the different components that I wanted to make in mind. When I set out to make Project Uproot, I wanted it to be completely comprehensive. I wanted to teach every single nook and cranny of pitch accent, all the little rules, even the ones that aren't written in any other books or resources, and I had to figure out myself just through listening to lots of Japanese and deducing the rules. But we really only created the very base core content of Project Uproot. I always wanted to make more, but because we ended up only selling Project Uproot one time, and we didn't have that many students, and we had to split all the profits between me and Ken. After a whole year, the funds were starting to run low, and so we needed to do something else to make money. And so even though in my mind I wasn't totally satisfied with where Project Uproot was, we started.
But wait, did you finish it? Did you finish the course? I'm kind of left adrift here. What happened? Did you only make 60 days worth of a course? Is that one lesson a day? How many? Sorry, but I'm not going to purchase the course to find out how much got made. Call me crazy, but I don't have a lot of trust for anything Ken Cannon's connected to. Um, I hope you explain this part.
Selling a new product, which was Fluency Incubator. So
Oh
before I move
no.
on to this, just to clarify, Project Uproot was a course that we sold one time. I think registrations are open for 1 week at the beginning of 2022. And after that, we have never sold the course again. So
Okay.
the total number of people that have ever taken Project Uproot is very small. And I'll talk about at the end about
How
what
many?
I think is going to happen to Project Uproot now. So basically, this brings us to November of 2023. Basically, the money that we'd made from Project Uproot had mostly run dry, and we'd finally finished the first version of Project Uproot. And so Ken and I launched Fluency Incubator. So this was not a course like Project Uproot was. It was an ongoing program where students would pay $150 a month, or a little bit less if they were paying annually. And then twice a month, we would all jump onto a Zoom call, and we would do various things to help the students stay on track learning Japanese. Like I would give a presentation on a language learning theory topic. We'd hear from the students on how many hours of immersion they each did every week, and what content they immersed in that they liked. And then we'd also kind of give them extra homework and assignments and missions and things like that, answer their questions, help them work out issues, etc. So we initially sold this just to the students of Project Uproot, and we did that for a couple months. And then eventually we did another promotion where Ken and I each sold it to our email list. And when we did this, Ken wrote the emails. They weren't as bad as the Project Uproot launch, like marketing copy, but they were still very bad and cringy and spammy. And I don't know why I let those get sent out, but I did, and that's a mistake that I made. So yeah, just to kind of clarify, with Project Uproot, we sold it once. For Fluency Incubator, we sold it twice. And besides these specific points of promotion, there was no way for you to sign up. It wasn't like there was all just a sign up page that you could go to and join anytime. You could only join at these specific points. So yeah, we started running Fluency Incubator. Overall, it went pretty well, although definitely in hindsight, I think it was overpriced for that level of price, $150 a month. I think we should have been providing.
Yeah, $150 a month is kind of crazy, dude. Like, okay, let's say I go to Japan and I hire an actual professional Japanese teacher who's got a background in Japanese education. The absolute max that I would probably pay is $30 per lesson, right? So you're doing 30 4 times a month. That's not one time a month like this, and you're still only looking at like $120, right? And you're getting it by a native speaker whose background is in education and meeting 4 times a month. $150 for one time a month for two guys who, sorry, I'm sure you're way better at Japanese than I am, both of you, both Ken and you, but you're still not going to be perfect, right? You're still not going to be like fluent level, native level, right? I mean, you're probably fluent, okay? I'm not. I've never heard you speak, Matt, so I'm not going to judge you. I'm guessing you're as good as Ken, or maybe even better. I know Ken's really good at Japanese. I'm never going to deny people's skill. Um, but sorry, being taught by a native speaker of the language is always going to be better, and especially if that native speaker went to school, a college, I mean, and got a degree in teaching the language they speak natively. And you could definitely afford that in Japan for like $30 a lesson. When I say $30, I mean US dollars, which would translate to a lot more. You're probably looking at $30 in Japanese yen right now would probably be close to Yonsen Gohaku-en, like almost 45 bucks for them. So they'd be getting paid mad cash. That would be a nice payday for a lesson. Um, yeah, overpriced is an understatement.
Writing a lot more content, had a lot more structure, had a lot more community for the different students and things like that. We probably should have been doing it every single week, not every
Yeah.
other week. But overall, the students that did come every other week to the sessions seemed like they were getting a lot out of it, and the contents that we presented in the lives, I do think were pretty good. So we ran this for close to a year, and over time, it started to be a little bit of a problem with consistently providing these lives to the students.
See, this is what always happens with Ken. Consistency, Ken. This is why you shouldn't have teamed up with Ken. He never completes stuff.
Now, I really don't want to throw Ken under the bus here, but I don't really know how to tell the story without talking about this. Basically, Ken had some issues in his personal life that led him to not.
Dude, this happens every time. It was the last thing was too. Ken had some issues in his personal life. He gave a massive sob story before where he said like I was really depressed. That's why I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. I dropped my keys down the elevator shaft and I couldn't get to my my car. My computer's locked into my car with all the lessons and I couldn't finish them. I forget exactly how the story went, but it was something where he was like ultra depressed, like his girlfriend or somebody broke up with him at the time and he wasn't thinking straight and he just couldn't get himself to do that. The other time he talked about like how depressed and personal issues he was having in his life because he had bankrupted himself by spending too much. It's always Ken has personal and like look, I'm not denying personal stuff happens. You're talking to a guy who had his house destroyed by a hurricane this year and just got into a car accident and had to pay for that. All right. I get it. I get it. Those kind of things absolutely put a roadblock and an obstacle in your life. But guess what? Your customers don't care about any of that. They paid for something and you still have to deliver.
Not always consistently be able to show up for the lives. So there were times where we'd have to reschedule or cancel a live directly beforehand, and we wouldn't be able to communicate very clearly with the students on when the lives were going to be. And it was the students were kind of very confused in the dark, and it really was not good because those students were paying a lot of money, and for the money they were paying, they should have really been receiving some.
I do want to ask though, Matt, like, why wouldn't you just show up by yourself? Like, I get like I understand what you're saying. You don't want to throw Ken under the bus, right? He helped you get this whole project started and kind of gave you like a pedestal and everything to, get your voice out there and get this, get that bag. Um, and that's cool. I mean, he kind of was your senpai for a while, right? We got it. That's cool, and I understand you. But at the same time, you're your own man, all right? I don't understand why you wouldn't have gone on there and you could have even said to the class, and I bet they would have been receptive to it if you said like, "Look, hey guys, sorry about this. It's just me today, but I tell you what, Ken's going to be back soon. He's dealing with some personal stuff, and I'm sure just as you all do. But nonetheless, I'm here to make sure you're getting what you paid for." And I bet you they'd really respect that. Why wouldn't you take the lead then?
Something premium. And this got worse over time until it got to a point where, at one point in time, late last year, we ended up missing multiple lives in a row. And for me, this was really the straw that broke the camel's back. And I told Ken that I didn't want to work with him anymore. Now, I will say that at this time, I think I should have taken a lot more initiative to contact the students, keep them in the loop,
Mm-hmm.
and show up and
Yes.
maybe do lives all on my own, even if Ken wasn't
Yes.
there.
Okay. All right.
Normally,
I'm glad you admit that right now. You're pretty much saying what I just said. Sadly, you didn't. All right.
in Ken and I's partnership, he was kind of the leader and he kind of had the final say. So at the time, I didn't do that. But really, in reality, I was just being lazy and I was using the fact that Ken wasn't showing up for the lives as an excuse to not show up myself. And I was blaming it on Ken. When in reality, I should have taken responsibility because my students were paying a lot of money. So that
Yes.
was another huge mistake. I should have taken a lot more initiative at that
Mm-hmm.
point in time. So anyway, yeah, it got worse and worse. Eventually, I told Ken that I didn't want to work with him anymore, and he agreed. And we decided that he would continue Fluency Incubator without me, and that I would go on and do a new project all on my own.
Hmm.
But right around this time, Ken had decided he was going to do a promotion where he was going to sell his Japanese course called Protocol 80 to his audience. And he
Okay, I do want to ask one thing that you didn't quite make clear, and maybe you'll talk about this later. Did you let your customers know that you were leaving the project? Like, did you send out an email letting them know? I mean, you let them know every time something was canceled, right? I hope you let them know that you guys parted and went your separate ways. I'd want to know. I'd want to let my customers know right away I'm not associated with this guy who doesn't follow through or show up for the courses.
asked me if I wanted to do a promotion to my audience as well. And basically, he would write all the copy, he would do all the work. All I had to do was, send the email to my audience, and then I would get 50% of all the sales.
Oh boy, here we
Now, at
go.
this point, I hadn't actually been making almost any money at all from Fluency Incubator because the consistency issue led to lots of students asking for refunds, and we were giving refunds to anyone who asked for a refund. And so, although I knew it was a bad idea, I gave in to
I
Ken's
knew
pressure.
it. You gave in to him and you helped him out with his Protocol 80 or whatever the hell it is. Dude, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me three times, yo, what's going on?
Proposal to sell Protocol 80 to my audience. Now, I will say that I have been through Protocol 80, and it is a good Japanese course, albeit pretty expensive. But the bigger problem was I knew he was going to market it in the way he markets everything,
Oh
which is in that
no.
used car salesman, very scammy style. And by that point, I was completely fed up with that style of marketing. And so I knew it was a bad idea, but I gave into it because I wanted the money. And honestly, the way I thought about it was I've already tarnished my reputation. I've burned my reputation to the ground already,
Oh
sending out these
no.
terrible scammy emails and doing the spammy marketing. How much more harm could a few more do?
Oh
That was the way I thought
no.
about it. Obviously, saying that out loud, it sounds terrible. It's a huge mistake. I should have known way better. But that's where I was at the time. And so, to make it all even worse, I told Ken to just send the emails for me, and I didn't even want to look at them because I was so
Oh,
fed up with these emails. It hurt me every time to read these terrible emails that are going on. I didn't even want to see them. So I just told Ken, write them, send them, tell me when it's all over, and tell me how much money I made. And what
bro.
happened was in one of these emails, Ken mentioned George from Japanese from Zero, and again he's writing as if it's me, so it sounds like I'm sending this out. And he mentions that George from Japanese from Zero. He doesn't say it directly, but he uses this kind of sneaky wording to make it sound like George is endorsing Ken's Japanese course
Oh
Protocol 80,
no.
and he was not. And so George got word of this, and he was understandably extremely upset
Yeah,
because
of
his name
course.
and his brand are being used to sell a course that he doesn't endorse. And I don't think George approves of the style of marketing, this kind of used salesman style of marketing that Ken always does. And so George contacted me over line saying, "Hey, what is this? This stuff that I'm seeing about you saying that I'm endorsing Ken's course. I'm not. I never endorsed Ken's course." And he was very upset,
Yeah.
understandably so.
Yeah.
And instead of just taking responsibility and saying, "Oh, I'm sorry this happened. This is all my fault. I'll do what it takes to make it better." Instead, I put all the responsibility on Ken, and I said, "Oh, Ken did it. I didn't even know about this. It's all Ken's fault. I'm sorry." And I was basically, a little wussy. And that understandably made George even more worse and
Yeah.
even more upset.
Yeah.
And he made a bunch of videos talking about the
Yeah.
situation.
Rightfully
So
so.
that was all. It was
I mean,
obviously a
rightfully
huge
so.
mistake
Okay, so I
to
don't
let
know.
someone
I
send
don't. I know a little bit about Japanese from Zero. I don't know George personally or anything like this, but I'll bet you, I'll bet you, if I talk to this person, George, he might know the history of Ken Cannon, having been in the Japanese teaching business himself. And I can tell you, I would never want any project I ever made, especially with my channel, and I've been around for a while, connected to Ken Cannon. Okay, I told you at the very beginning of this, he's a sketchy dude who's never finished anything he's started. Then this guy's telling you himself, he's like, I worked with him and he's a sketchy dude who sends out, sketchy emails and doesn't finish what he started. On top of it, he's just straight lying to his customers that he's connected to another teacher. He's not. Um, Stop. Stop. When will people learn? Oh my God. I guess because this is funny though, because I hadn't heard from Ken Cannon and it's probably been like 5 to 8 years at this point since the last time I ever heard about him. So I guess he'll just wait for this to cool down and come back again.
emails to my audience without me reading over them. Obviously, it was a huge mistake to ever send out these type of spammy emails, and it was also a mistake to put the responsibility on Ken and not take responsibility on myself because I was letting this happen the entire time, and because of that, it's entirely my responsibility. So that's basically the gist of what happened. After all of this, I officially stopped working with Ken 100%, cut all work ties.
I forgot to wait, hold on. I forgot to mention that I also forfeited all my money I was owed from the final protocol 80. You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that. You should have made him pay you out. I hope there was something signed, bro. Like, did you sign anything with Ken? Um, the reason I'm saying you should have got paid out is because I think you owe some people some money.
And I went on to start a new community a couple months ago called the Immersion Dojo. It's on the platform called School. I'm basically doing something kind of similar to what I was doing with Ken with Fluency Incubator, but instead of twice a month, it's every single week. And I'm also providing a lot more content in addition to that. There's also a bigger community element. And I'm talking about all the new language learning theory ideas that I had that I was talking about in Fluency Incubator. And I'm charging $18 a month. So I think it's a lot more
Okay, that is way more reasonable. I don't know if I would have started another course this close to a massive failure from your last course. Let's continue.
reasonable price point. So if you're interested, I'll put a link to that in the description. As far as I know, Ken is now continuing to run Fluency Incubator, although I haven't been in contact with him recently. And I also believe that he's providing a lot of extra content to make up for all the lives that were missed, that people paid for. And he's also just offering refunds to anybody that just wants a refund instead of the extra content. As far as what's going to happen to a Project Uproot, honestly, I'm not totally sure because I haven't talked to Ken about this yet. But I think what I want to do is I don't really want to sell Project Uproot because I feel like the whole project is already so tarnished due
Mm.
to all the stuff that happened and the way it was marketed and everything. And so what I think I want to do is some point in the not too far future, I want to make a new pitch accent course where I teach all the same stuff that I teach in Project Uproot, but I'll just remake all the videos, all the content, and then I will sell that at a probably much cheaper price than Project Uproot was, and I'll offer a free copy to any of the original Project Uproot students. And hell, I'll give it to all the Fluency Incubator students as well. So that's basically the gist of it. I want to apologize for all of these huge mistakes that I made, and I also want to apologize for it taking me so long to just come out and be honest and transparent about what happened. And I also want to apologize for the combination of those two things leading to so many people's time and energy getting wasted on creating and viewing kind of drama videos within the Japanese learning community, which is really not helping anyone reach their goals of learning Japanese. So I'm really hoping that with this video, we can put all the drama in the past, move forward. I'm back on YouTube. I have a lot of content that I've been wanting to make for a long time now, and I'm sure I'm going to make more mistakes because at this point my behavior seems to definitely be a recurring pattern, but at the very least I'm planning on trying to own up to my mistakes a lot more quickly and more readily going forward. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
All right. All right. Matt, you're a young guy. You're an entrepreneur. I respect that. I started a business in Japan myself, although it was teaching English, not teaching Japanese. And I know it's stressful. I understand. There's a lot of stress that comes with running a business. I will say one thing I never did though. I never didn't show up for a lesson. I'd show up to lessons like dead sick before I'd miss one of my students' lessons. Um, so you're kind of dealing with a live and learn type situation. I think this is maybe your first project you've ever started. Um, I hope you've refunded as many people as you can. I would ask Ken for that money to refund more if you could. I mean, I would try to go out of my way to track people down and refund them. Um, damn, dude. I will say, um, you should have done more research on Ken. Ken's got a shady past, man. Um, don't. Well, I will say also your age just probably plays into that. I've definitely made, connected with people and been like, yeah, we're gonna run an amazing business, and then later they're just like letting me do all the work while they just sit back and are like, yeah, I got problems at home, can't come in today. Good luck, Scott. Keep running it. So I've definitely run into that when I was younger. Um, I've definitely run into people where I start a project with them and then I end up doing the whole project and never finish it. Although this was never anything I was ever charging anybody for. It was usually like massive art projects and stuff like that. Um, that's rough, bud. Okay. I respect you though for coming forward, being a man, standing up, admitting where you screwed up. You did take full responsibility. I will say that. You tried to refund people, it sounds like. You realized working with Ken was not the greatest idea and broke that off. Um, I get at the very end there, it sounds like you were hurting for money, so you let Ken throw one more net out into the ocean to get more fish. You should have never been attached to that. Come on, buddy. You knew better than that. You know. Oh God. I tell you, man, you got to be careful with connecting online and stuff like this. I think you need to be careful with when you're talking online too, but anytime you're doing anything on the internet, especially when it connects to like you, your channel, who you are, you know, I'm not saying you're a character that you play, but the character of who you are, Matt versus Japan. Um, you should always expect you are being recorded 24/7. As soon as you turn anything on your computer that is connected to the internet, talking to someone, typing to someone, even, sending DMs in Twitter or something like that, just imagine it's going to be shown to the whole damn world, okay? I guess you probably understand that now. That does suck, that someone shady decided to try and clip you into making you sound far worse than you were. I don't know if it was a great idea to wait till the product came out to prove you weren't a scam. That sounds like a bad start if you're hoping that post product shows that it's not a scam. It should be before the product even goes, pre-launch. Um, it does, sound like you're kind of living and learning as far as running a business goes. I think you're starting to learn that once you start a big business project, you got to follow through with the whole thing, even on those days where you're like, damn, I do not want to do this anymore. I am so sick of this project. You got to push through. There's so many days when I opened my school in Japan. I tell you, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to do payroll. I didn't want to go looking for a secretary. I didn't want to, I didn't want to deal with kids who didn't want to learn English but still had their parents signing them up for my school. There's many, many days where I think people imagine when they get their own business, when they run their own business, they're like, that's when I finally hit the high life. I'll be my own boss and every day will be paradise. It's not. It's not. There's many, many things that you are stuck with managing that you've never had to touch on before, such as the marketing. And damn, it sounds like Ken's got like a real handle on marketing as far as that's concerned. But it sounds like the way he approaches it is not congruent with your own morals and virtues, which, I applaud you for that, Matt. I applaud you for the fact that you're not a fan of the way he went about it. Um, it sucks you were pulled into internet drama because he connected you to a teacher who had nothing to do with the course. Um, there is a very gray area between marketing and scamming, and Ken crosses back and forth and possibly has even set up a house in that gray area. Although, quite frankly, I bet you he has a villa out in the scam zone. Um, I think in the future, any project that you run needs to be solo you. All right. I think it's very reasonable that you're starting an $18 a month course. I don't know if I would have started it this close to a past course failing. Um, I do want to say that anything that you have to do that is a live appearance, unless you live with the person, unless they're like related to you and live in the same house, unless it's like your wife or someone like that, I would never suggest depending on another person to show up for something that doesn't have a boss that tells you both to show up. Because there's many issues where you could run into someone being like, I'm not feeling it today. I'm kind of hungover from hitting up the bars in Rapongi. I just rely on only yourself to show up on time and to do anything live when it comes to the internet. I would not rely on another person. Um, Not that I've had a ton of, bad situations like that, but I've definitely had collabs in the past where like the person just doesn't show up and it doesn't involve money, so I'm not furious about it. But I started to realize like unless I know the person really well, there's no point in um, absolutely depending on that person to show up for a collab on any kind of project like that. Um, Moving forward, if you do want to come on here and talk about it more, I would like to actually talk about that whole you were clipped out of context and said that people who pay for your courses are whales and stuff like that. That does sound like it was um, pushed to a certain absurd level, considering it doesn't sound like you made a massive amount of profit on this, but I don't know that. The numbers are a little bit weird. Like, I don't know how many courses were you selling for $500? It said for 2 months that project went on. Is that one course every day? Was that, it sounded like you said you completed 48 courses. If it was 48 courses for $500, I'd say that's pretty reasonable. You're completely right that the extra 250 added on there for an upsell sounds preposterous. I don't know what that included. That was kind of very vague. Um, I don't really recommend anybody use a course where they don't actually get to speak to a teacher. And if you really are absolutely set on becoming fluent, like you really want to go to Japan and speak, you need to talk to somebody. Immersion is the best medicine for the cure for absolutely not being able to speak the language. You can have all this stuff pounded into your head. And then when you get to Japan and find out, oh, I moved to Osaka and they only speak Kansai Ben, and everything I've learned in that course doesn't have the same suffixes that Kansai Ben uses, I don't understand anything. Also, just learning the speed, the iambic pentameter that people speak, it's far different than what you actually hear in lessons. Listening to a native speaker, and look, it's nothing against Matt or Ken's Japanese, but listening to a native speaker speak at a normal speed is far different than learning to someone who learned it as a second language. You've got to get that under your belt if you're absolutely serious about becoming fluent. You need to have someone online you can talk to. So maybe like taking his lessons and having it connected to like italki or Preply, where you have a speaker you're talking to weekly, will actually get you fluent. But people always ask me if I recommend like Duolingo. Do I recommend like Rosetta Stone? No, 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 I don't. I'll bet you Matt's teaching a little bit more colloquial and um, everyday Japanese use. But a lot of those books, a lot of those courses teach you BS, like Genki Japanese. Those books are useless. No one talks like that. You're not going to be speaking Keigo, which is polite Japanese, which has totally different suffixes every single day on the street. The only time you're going to be using that is when you're in a business situation and you need to be very polite. For the most part, the biggest problem I see with people, and this is the problem I ran into too, is I studied Keigo before I went to Japan, the polite version of Japanese, and I didn't understand anything. On top of it, I moved to Osaka and they spoke Kansai Ben, so that was double didn't understand. There's words that are absolutely switched out. For example, arigato is maido sometimes in Osaka. They say that instead at a shop. Um, Same thing, thank you, but I'd never heard it in a single book or seen it or had anybody speak it to me. There's a lot of aspects like that you don't realize until you get to another country, especially us Americans who haven't learned a second language. You Europeans out there, you usually end up getting this done way quicker, learning the building blocks of creating a new language in your head because you've learned to speak more than one language. But especially you, my American viewers, you're going to find that you are not just learning a second language in Japan, you are learning how to learn a language for the first time. It's very different than any of those classes you took in high school or middle school or whatever you studied. And you're going to have to learn that there's a street version, a casual version, there's slang. You never thought about all this stuff until you started to put it in your head. And I've had people tell me, they're like, oh, I'm pretty much, I think I'm going to be fluent when I go out there. I can repeat everything I've ever heard in anime. And it's like, no. I'm like, have you spoken to a native speaker, like had a conversation back and forth? No, but like I've memorized like all the dialogue. Like I can totally understand what people are saying in these anime I watch. And it's like, that's great. You're not going to be talking to anime characters when you go to Japan. You're going to be talking to real people. Um, it, and look, I'm not saying like I'm not dissuading you from studying via movies, anime, manga, and stuff like that. That's a great way to add extra to your learning, but you need to have a tutor you're speaking one on one with. Okay. Especially you Americans, you need to hear the language spoken to you at a speed that is regular speed. Okay. It makes a massive difference. Um, Matt, I hope I do get a chance to talk to you one on one. I'm going to live stream tonight and see if I can hook up with you at some point. I know our hours are super different, so I might not be able to do that ever. I did reach out to you with my email address, so get in contact with me if you do want to do that. I promise you it's not going to be hostile or aggressive, but I just have some questions about the whole taken out of context clips you were talking about. And, you know, feel free to come over and even talk to my viewers. Can't say I'm going to push your course or push, definitely not going to push anything Ken sells, but I'm glad you did learn. And I guess for my viewers out there, be aware Ken's out on the prowl again, Ken Cannon. I would never recommend his lessons. This is the third time I've heard a story of him screwing over his students. I don't know why it keeps happening again and again. I guess I need to do an update video. I need to do a rehash of what's happened in the past, and I will. I hate seeing people get screwed over in this community and it be tied to other people like myself or even someone like Matt here who apparently did get screwed over by this connection in the community. Anyway, until next time, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this gives you kind of a view into what can actually go on when you're trying to learn a language. And if you have any questions about it today, obviously hit me up. Check out Matt's channel. I'm sure he's a good dude. You know, he's come and apologized. I'm not throwing him under the bus. I'm just listening to a man learn about how business can go awry and how business connections can go even worse. Until next time, I've been Unrested, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.